glad to be here. I want to thank the organizers and everyone who stayed around this late in the afternoon, probably after a bit of a hangover yesterday, for being here tonight and for today. So, we're talking about hacking. We're talking about your personal identity. We're talking about privacy. All these issues have become bigger and bigger, or at least more well-known over the last few years. The truth is, not a lot has changed as far as in our world, but a lot has changed as far as what you know about the hacking world now. So I'd like to often try to start with kind of clarifying what is a hacker and who hackers are. So really, there's a lot of you in here that might actually be hackers. You just don't quite see yourselves that way. The truth is there's 4 kinds of people in the world, and this includes everyone. And these are people who know and do things, people who know but don't do things. Then you got people who don't know and don't do. And then you've got those people who don't know but do. Okay, and there's 2 types of people that are basically hackers. By definition, if we look at in the dictionary, what is a hacker? The interesting thing is, on one end, the meaning is, as it says, they're an expert at programming and solving problems. And on the other end, it says, it's a person who engages in an activity without skill or talent. That sounds like 2 contradicting descriptions on the same word, and that's because it is. The truth is that when I started with computers as a hobby, I certainly didn't know anything about them, and Google wasn't around. In fact, the interwebs didn't exist yet. And of course, I fucked a lot of things up, I'll tell you that. But along the way, I learned about things, and that's really kind of what hacking is all about. It's about learning about something really quickly, and becoming an expert at something very deeply. And oftentimes what happens is that you find these flaws, because what we're really doing is using things in ways that the people who invented those things did not intend it to be used, right? So that's really what hacking is all about. It's probably the most creative type of engineering, because oftentimes when you're a system administrator, network, or programmer, you're taught to use a certain language, a certain system, and you just kind of follow the instruction manual, right? Hacking is the complete and total opposite. Things don't always work out the way that you're doing it. So let me start off with a little old school hacking for you. This is some old school hacking. You ready?
What's the password?
Password?
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No.
Do you have a dog?
Yeah, her name's Muffin.
Is a password Muffin?
Yes, it is. Come on in.
That literally is early hacking. And the crazy part about it is that still works today. The majority of the attacks that you're seeing are against people, and a lot of it is now using social engineering, is what we call it, along with technology. Okay, so in fact, the truth is every single one of you have already been hacked. You just don't know it yet. And when do you find out? Usually it's because some service provider you use has been hacked already. And they don't usually know until it becomes a massive problem and it becomes a public problem. So, and at that point it becomes a legal problem. And that's when you find out. For many, many years, hacks were not disclosed by companies until it became law that it would be disclosed by companies. So just to demonstrate just how much information is out there, how much information has already leaked, I'm going to take you to the dork side, as we call it, with Google. And now Google has these search string operators that we call Google dorking. And over here, you guys can now see that I have my screens here. Now, there's a thing called the Google Hacking Database. And of course, it's not a Google website. It's actually run by a couple of different people. And in here, you'll see that there's all these things that you can do in the search string URL. As you can see there, I'm not searching for something normal. I'm searching for something very specific, right? And in these examples here, which I kind of pre-did for the sake of time. One that I'm going to show you just right now live, which I always like to do, kind of freaks out government people when I do this in the States. So if I type in site:/gov, right? And then I put in file type:/doc, and then I put in classified. I hopefully spelled it right. You will see that there is, I can't even tell the number here, 50,000 Word documents sitting at a .gov site that have the word classified in the document. So the truth is there's a lot of leaked information, quote unquote, even if I didn't know anything about classified information and wanted to target the US government, there is a whole bunch of documents right on the first page of Google that explain how classified information is handled. So this sort of information gathering leads to information leakage and what you guys all understand to be leaks and or hacks. So some more examples that I pulled up here. Kind of pre-did some of these for you. So these are, for example, telling it to show me websites that have in their text string these specific characters here, which, by the way, should not be out there on the internet. But again, it's because they've been misconfigured. For example, like this, index of Etsy password directory is the file that stores passwords on a server. And this way I can show you, it goes on and on and on, all the way up to me being able to say, let me see if I can zoom in here. Just like I did that file type doc, and if you're wondering why I was looking for Word documents, it's because most of you don't know that when you open a Word document and you start putting stuff in your Word document and you hit that backspace or you hit delete, it's not really deleted. The entire revision history of that document, unless it's saved as a different document, is in there. And so we look for those redactions because you'd be surprised to what people leave in these documents or think that is no longer in there. One of those, this is more of those type of examples of technical ones now, is Excel spreadsheets, right? So again, these are directories that are being shown that should not be on the internet at all, with files that again show password information, which I'm not going to show you, but one of those is, what do you think, what other kind of file documents do you think we can put in here? XLS. How many people keep passwords in an Excel file? Go on and on and on. I could put in social security number, so on and so forth, right? And again, all these things, by the way, I'm not doing anything illegal by doing this. These websites, these documents are publicly out there, whether right or wrong. And as long as they're public out there, I haven't been prompted for a password or anything like that, and I haven't cracked into anything. This is intelligence gathering, right? So it's that simple, and that's why I say a lot of your information is already out there. I'm not even getting into all the deep web stuff, okay? So with that said, finding phone numbers, emails, things of that nature are usually pretty easy. And now what I'd like to do is bring a couple of people on stage that I met while being out here in Vienna. You guys back there? Come on out. Victor, Verena. Victor, Verena. Yeah, say hello to Victor and Verena. And we're going to go over here, and I'll show you just one of the big problems is that we trust technology too much, and everybody in here has a cell phone, so we met here. I met Victor actually partying the other night, and I met Verena a little earlier backstage. So this is actually their microphone. I'm double mic'd right now. And what I want to do is I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that trust can be exploited on your mobile devices. And this is usually used as a precursor to a more technical hack. But again, because we trust what we see that our cell phones say, this is what I'm going to take advantage of right now. So, Verena, you have your phone with you, yeah? And what kind of phone do you have? Look at that. She's got an iPhone. All right. So earlier, I was able to obtain Verena's phone and phone number. I'm going to have you hold that. And I basically got her number. and asked her a few questions, including some other, normal stuff. You have sisters, brothers. So one of those things was if she had a sister. And so I asked her about her sister's phone number. And let's see, I think there's a cameraman right here somewhere, right? And I think if you can look through the camera there, did you just receive a text? You did, okay. So I'm not sure where we have a camera I can show you this. But why don't you read us what it says there?
Okay, it says Schwesterherz, which is sister heart, is my sister. It's how I saved her in my phone. It says, hey sister, I heard about those smart vibrators being shown at Pioneer Festival. How smart are they? Lol.
How smart are they? Anybody know
I
how
usually
smart
don't
they are?
talk with my sister about vibrators, so that would be suspicious.
That's giving I think we could see it now, maybe. Why don't you show your text there? So, for all intents and purposes, it looks like the text came from her sister. And that's just taking advantage of a little flaw in the way that SMS works, right? A very basic thing, right? So it looks like it came from her sister. Now, if she replied to her sister that these vibrators were very smart, her sister would have no clue what she's talking about because her sister didn't see the initial message, right? So that was actually me. So usually this would be used, for example, to preemptively send you a text from, it could be a bank, it could be, I have done some things that my friends didn't like too much, like text all my friends from their girlfriends' numbers that they're pregnant. Didn't work out too well. But you can only imagine what kind of a ruckus you can make with this. Now, that's one example of how we would use this to neither, again, you trust what you see and who it says it's coming from. So you would think that that's from a bank. You would think that's from your girlfriend. You would think it's from an employee, whatever it may be. And another mechanism to do that would be to spoof a call to you. Now, all of this, by the way, there are some legalities in different countries, but for the most part, it's completely legal what I'm doing here. So now I've got Victor up here, and and Victor, how you doing, Victor?
Doing well, but I got a call, so I have to pick up the call from my employee back in the States.
Who's calling you, Victor?
Lauren is calling me.
Okay, why don't you answer it and put it on speaker, and then
Sure.
just put it near the microphone so they can hear.
Hello, Lauren?
Hey, Victor. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm here in Pioneers.
How is Pioneer?
What time is it in Arizona?
Are you having fun?
I'm having a lot of fun with this crazy guy on stage, yeah.
My voice goes. Anyway, that's not my voice. But I can even modulate and change my voice. I can put background noise to make you believe that I'm at the casino or at a club. And when you start using all these different things, you can actually fool someone into believing that, especially if the request you're making is very simple. So I haven't even really gotten that technical into now driving you to go to a website that has a browser exploit and then gives me full access to your phone, and then I can, maybe look at your vibrator pics. So thank you guys. Let's give them a hand for being nice enough to volunteer for this. Thank you, Victor. Thank you. And that's just one simple example of how I could very easily hack any phone, because it doesn't really matter what kind of phone you have. As you can tell, both of those technologies work on all of your phones. And from there, I could then figure out exactly what operating versions you're using and so on and so forth. And we have a lot of issues with cybersecurity. It is still very much a baby as far as in the technology world. One of the biggest issues we have is only until about 10 years ago did anybody actually put a number on the cost of cybercrime. Now we actually have the term cybercrime as a service. So you can actually go on the deep web and hire cybercrime as a service, hire people to actually do illegal stuff, okay? So that's not a problem. You can go online and buy, 50,000 PayPal accounts, all kinds of crazy stuff. And again, this wasn't hacking PayPal. They hacked other databases that may have this information. They may have hacked the individuals. So again, there's so much information already out there that you've all already been hacked. You just haven't actually felt the impact of it yet. We're starting to feel the impact of it. And when you think about it, this is a massive number. They're now talking about numbers that go up to $1 trillion in annual cost of security breaches. And whatever that is in euros, it's still a lot of zeros. Every minute it is said that over 1,000 people get hacked per minute. So that's problem number one, is just this ridiculous number of what the costs of cybersecurity or breaches are. Another major problem is the fact that this digital landscape is growing so quickly, it's becoming, we've got the Internet of Everything now, right? So, hence the vibrators that, if you guys don't know what the vibrators I'm talking about, should have seen Lisa's talk earlier. Not to mention, for some reason, I got a vibrator in my speaker package. I guess I'm going to be hacking the vibrator next, seeing how I can use that. But it's interesting how smart these things are. And everything now is a smart thing, quote unquote. So we have supposedly, over the next few years, according to Cisco, we're going to have 50 billion devices by 2020 connected to the internet. 50 billion devices. That's 79 octillion new possible connections of devices who are now using the internet for everything and communicating over everything. It is a massive footprint. And with that said, the other problem is there's not enough people like me or even close to be able to handle and deal with all of these technologies. While cybersecurity is a multi-billion-dollar industry, the problem isn't really the technology. There's great technology out there, but that technology is meant for people like me to use, for other technologists, for other security experts to use. It's not intended and it's not written for consumers. And there are certainly more number of consumers than there are cybersecurity experts. In fact, Forbes last year wrote an article on this and said that there is 1 million cybersecurity jobs open worldwide every year that go unfilled, which basically means there is zero unemployment when it comes to cybersecurity. 1 million jobs unfilled every year. And that goes from technical all the way to management. Management is even worse. The typical time that it takes for a company, or for that matter, even worse for an individual, to figure out they've been hacked on average is 229 days. 229 days. I'm sure you all heard of the Sony hack in Hollywood. They were hacked for months before they knew. Okay, so that, believe it or not, unfortunately is the norm. Not because the technologies don't exist, but because the people don't exist behind that technology. So I've come to this conclusion. There is no companies. You work at a company, you work at a company, you work at a company, but you are a consumer of technology. You may be a creator of technology too. So you're neither a consumer, a creator. You're neither both, or you're just a consumer of technology. Every single one of us is a consumer of technology. But most of us don't really understand what our devices are doing, and certainly not at the level where hackers can do that. So I've taken a whole new approach on how to work on this cybersecurity issue, which is to address my mother's issues with computers. Someone who doesn't understand a thing about what their device is doing, and give them the power, give everyone the power of the hacker, if you will. If you had my knowledge, you would be able to identify a hack or an attempt at a hack much quicker, and its impact would then be a lot less on you. So that's really what we have to do, is address that. You have, the fact that you have to educate, and that's why I've been very passionate in working with Hollywood on certain movies and projects, because that's one of the best ways we can educate is through entertainment. You guys have to everyone needs to become more aware, especially the consumers, of how things work. You don't have to become a tech geek. We don't really even know what privacy means. We can talk about privacy till you're, blue in the face, but the truth is, if I asked every single one of you what privacy means to you, the answers would vary. Even the word hacking and getting hacked, what it means to you, would vary. So this is really about how we operate safely in this new digital realm, in this new digital domain, because the truth is your phone is actually, your identity lies more on your devices than on your physical fingerprints anymore, or on your physicality anymore. All of the information necessary to become you is already out there. So if I called the bank and you called the bank and we were asked all the same questions and I had all the same answers as you, how would you prove that you are you? That would be very difficult to do. But hacking is in fact innovation. That is what has led to many different types of innovations, not just in cybersecurity, but across the technical board. So forget security for a while, and this is the word I'm going to leave you at. It isn't about security, it's about resilience. You have to assume that you will be hacked if you're not already hacked. Now, the question really is, how do you operate if that did happen? I think some of you may have had flight problems coming in from London because the entire airline could not operate. That's not acceptable. I don't care if they got hacked. It's about resilience. You have to have means and ways to operate. Even if you did get hacked, you have to assume that that's going to happen. So, again, the important thing here has to do with you as an individual. Don't rely on the government or any government to put security in place and help you. Don't rely on any company, service provider to do this for you. This is your problem. You are the problem. You are the weakest link, not the technology. So, with that said, I thank you guys for taking the time. I think I'm running out of time here.
Not every geek with a Commodore 64
I'll
can
leave you with a
hack into
little
NASA.
music.
All right, thank you, Ralph. Very interesting stuff. Okay, so we've got questions from you. And Hannah, wherever you are, you're the most upvoted question. And she asks, she says, it's known Gmail is scanning emails and it's not a reliable service. If you care about your private data, so what secure email alternative would you recommend?
Well, first of all email services, you have to keep in mind that they're providing free email services to you. Free means that they're public. So they are public services. You have Proton Mail here, which a lot of us use, which uses encryption by default. So I highly recommend Proton Mail, but again, the whole thing is you gotta keep in mind, depending on the nature of what kind of content you're gonna have in these emails, as long as you're using a public service, it is public. It is on someone else's. There is no cloud. It's just somebody else's machine. That's all a cloud means. It's just on somebody else's server, where it used to be on our own servers. So, again, that's the best thing I can tell you about email.
All right. And next question is, am I too paranoid for covering up my camera on my laptop?
Absolutely not.
You're not too paranoid.
You are not too paranoid. I have software right now that we use that is not public, that I can turn on your camera without the light coming on. So you wouldn't know your camera is on.
Wow.
So yeah, cover it up.
Okay, everyone cover up your cameras. And next up is, what is your opinion on WikiLeaks? By Anonymous, appropriately enough.
Well, that's a good one. First of all, I think that both Anonymous and WikiLeaks, I don't believe that it's a good or bad thing. I think it's a matter of balance, and this is forcing the issue. It used to be that those in power were in power because of military power, because they had tanks and because they can physically do something. WikiLeaks, Anonymous, and such have shown that you don't have to have military power to make a difference, to actually make an impact. We just have to be careful with what that impact is, right? So, again, I actually would say that I support, for the most part, what Anonymous and WikiLeaks does. So.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Ralph. That was super informative.
Thank you.
That was great.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'm going to ask security to make sure you stay away from my backpack.
It's too late. I already got your backpack.
Damn.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ralph. A big round of applause for Ralph.